I turned 35 in a hotel room in Frankfurt, answering emails at 2 in the morning while a half-eaten slice of cake sat untouched beside my laptop. The hotel staff had left it there after noticing the date on my passport. "Happy birthday, Mr. Levine," the note said in neat handwriting. I remember staring at the candle until the wax collapsed into itself. That was the moment I realized I had spent my entire life running toward an audience that never really existed. If you looked at my life from the outside, you would probably think I had everything figured out. Good grades, scholarships, a master's degree, a prestigious job, promotions before 30. The kind of resume people post online so strangers can congratulate them. But somewhere between being called gifted at 12 and becoming a burned-out consultant at 35, I discovered something terrifying. I was never the smartest person in the room. Not once. And the worst part was that I kept building my identity around pretending I was. When I was a kid, being smart felt effortless. In elementary school, teachers adored me because I answered questions before everyone else. Adults laughed when I corrected them on random facts, and other kids thought I was a genius because I read thick books and knew words they had never heard before. I still remember one parent-teacher meeting where my teacher told my mother, "He's exceptional." At that age, you don't understand how dangerous praise can be when it becomes the foundation of your personality. I started believing intelligence was the reason people valued me, not kindness, not effort, not character, achievement. So I performed. I joined competitions, math clubs, debate teams, science fairs, chess tournaments. I said yes to everything because every trophy felt like proof that I deserved attention. And among normal kids, I looked brilliant. That's the important part, among normal kids. The first crack appeared when I was 13 and got accepted into an advanced academic program for gifted students. For the first time in my life, everyone around me had also been the smartest kid somewhere else. There was this boy named Amir who solved equations in his head faster than I could write them down. A girl named Yael barely studied and still scored perfectly on every exam. Another kid built software for fun while the rest of us were still learning basic programming. I remember sitting quietly while they discussed books I had never heard of and concepts I pretended to understand. It was the first time I felt ordinary, not stupid, just replaceable. But instead of accepting that feeling, I doubled down. That became the pattern of my life. Every time reality told me I wasn't special, I simply worked harder to protect the illusion. In high school, I became addicted to productivity. I joined student council, volunteered constantly, captained clubs, entered competitions, and stayed after school for projects nobody had asked me to do. Teachers loved me because I was disciplined. Parents used me as an example for their children. "You're going places," they said. What they didn't see was how terrified I was all the time because there was always someone better. I could study 6 hours for an exam and score a 94, then some exhausted-looking kid in the back would get a 99 while doodling in his notebook the entire semester. I could spend weeks preparing for debate tournaments while another student improvised speeches so sharp and confident they made mine sound rehearsed. I was good at many things, but other people were extraordinary at one thing, and extraordinary always captures attention. That's what nobody tells you about being gifted. Eventually you leave small ponds and then suddenly you realize oceans exist. I remember one specific moment during my final year of high school. We were preparing for a national mathematics competition and I had studied harder than anyone I knew. I barely slept for 2 weeks. During practice, I solved one of the hardest problems in about 20 minutes and felt incredibly proud of myself. Then Amir glanced at my paper and casually said, "There's a shorter way." He solved it in less than 2 minutes. Not arrogantly, not maliciously, almost absent-mindedly. Everyone around us nodded like it was completely normal. I laughed along with them, but something inside me collapsed a little, because effort had always been my weapon. If I wasn't naturally exceptional, then at least I could outwork people. But there are some people who are both talented and hardworking, and meeting them changes you. By the time I entered college, I had perfected the image of success. I knew how to sound intelligent, how to impress professors, how to stay busy enough that nobody questioned me. I studied engineering because smart people studied engineering. At least that was my logic back then. University was where the exhaustion truly began. In high school, hard work still produced recognition. In college, everyone worked hard. Everyone had been top of their class. Everyone had sacrificed something to get there. Again, I found myself trapped in the middle. I wasn't failing. In fact, I was doing objectively well. Good grades, research opportunities, internships, strong recommendations. But there were students around me who operated on a completely different level. I knew a guy who published research before graduating. Another launched a startup from his dorm room. A girl in my algorithms class explained concepts better than the professor did. Meanwhile, I survived through discipline, caffeine, and panic. I became obsessed with being involved in everything because being merely good felt invisible. I joined academic societies, networking events, competitions, leadership programs. I filled every hour of my schedule because resting felt dangerous. If I slowed down, someone else would get ahead. And there was always someone else getting ahead. That's the exhausting thing about ambitious environments. Achievement stops feeling meaningful because there's always a new standard. You publish one paper, someone publishes 3. You get an internship, someone founds a company. You score highly on an exam, someone acts like the exam was easy. I started comparing myself compulsively, not just academically, but socially too. Some people were naturally charismatic, others effortlessly attractive. Some came from wealthy families and carried themselves with unshakable confidence. Some seemed emotionally stable while succeeding at everything else. Meanwhile, I felt like a machine held together by anxiety, but I hid it well. That became another skill of mine, looking functional. During my master's degree, things got worse because now everyone around me wasn't just smart. They were specialized, focused, certain. And I envied certainty more than intelligence. I remember sitting in a research lab at midnight while everyone else passionately discussed theories and ideas. They genuinely loved the work. I didn't. I loved succeeding at the work. There's a difference. One keeps you alive, and the other burns you alive slowly. I kept collecting achievements because I thought eventually they would transform into self-worth. But accomplishments are temporary drugs. The satisfaction fades almost immediately. You adapt frighteningly fast. The dream university becomes normal after a semester. The prestigious internship becomes another line on LinkedIn. The promotion becomes expected. Nothing is enough for long. I entered the corporate world at 27, already exhausted in ways I didn't understand. Externally, my life looked incredible. Good salary, international travel, important projects, expensive office buildings with glass walls and designer coffee machines. My parents were proud. Friends congratulated me constantly, and once again I was successful, just not exceptional. There were people at work who processed information faster than I could, people who negotiated naturally, people who could lead rooms without effort, people who seemed built for pressure. I compensated by becoming hyper-reliable. I answered emails instantly, took extra projects, worked weekends, learned new systems faster than necessary, volunteered for difficult assignments. Managers loved me because I was the ideal employee, driven entirely by fear. Fear creates excellent workers. I kept telling myself that if I just achieved enough, eventually I would feel secure. Eventually I would feel worthy. Instead, the goalposts kept moving. At 30, I was making more money than my father ever had. Yet I couldn't sleep without thinking about colleagues outperforming me. At 32, I led major projects, but secretly believed I had fooled everyone into overestimating me. At 34, I got promoted again and felt absolutely nothing. No pride, no joy, just temporary relief. Burnout doesn't arrive dramatically the way people imagine. There's no cinematic collapse, no single moment where your body gives up. It happens quietly. You stop enjoying weekends because they feel too short. You wake up tired even after sleeping. You lose the ability to celebrate achievements because you're already worried about the next one. You become emotionally numb. Eventually, you realize your entire personality has been built around performance. And I think the saddest part is how much of my life was spent trying to impress imaginary observers. I wanted people to think I was successful, intelligent, exceptional. But nobody was watching as closely as I imagined. Everyone else was too busy fighting their own insecurities. That realization came slowly. I saw brilliant coworkers secretly terrified of failure, friends with perfect social media lives confessing depression, highly accomplished people admitting they constantly felt inadequate. Even the people I envied weren't at peace, especially them. One night, after a 14-hour workday, I sat in the office kitchen with a senior partner named Daniel. He was one of those terrifyingly competent people who seemed superior in every measurable way. Perfect career, perfect communication skills, perfect reputation. I remember asking him how he stayed motivated after all these years. He laughed, not the polished corporate laugh he used in meetings, but a tired one. Then he said, "You know what the problem is? Once you become good at succeeding, people never let you stop." That sentence haunted me because I realized I had done the same thing to myself since childhood. I had trained everyone, teachers, parents, managers, friends, myself, to expect constant achievement from me. And now I no longer knew who I was without it. At 35, I still struggle with that. I still instinctively measure my worth through productivity. I still compare myself to people who are smarter, richer, more disciplined, more accomplished. But I understand something now that younger me never did. Most people who seem extraordinary are simply human beings standing under different lighting. As a child, I believed life worked like stories. Talented people discovered their gift, became exceptional, and finally felt complete. Reality is uglier and more complicated. There will always be someone smarter than you, someone more talented, someone younger achieving things faster. If your self-worth depends on outranking others, you will suffer forever because comparison has no finish line. And yet we build entire lives around it. Schools reward it. Companies reward it. Society worships it. We learn to introduce ourselves through accomplishments instead of identities. What do you do? Where did you study? What have you achieved? Nobody asks if you're happy, maybe because many of us already know the answer. Sometimes I think about the boy I used to be, the kid who felt invincible because adults called him gifted. I want to tell him something gently. You do not need to be extraordinary to deserve love. You do not need to outperform everyone to justify your existence, and no achievement will permanently silence insecurity. I wish I had learned that earlier. Maybe then I would have rested more, laughed more, lived more honestly instead of constantly performing competence, because when your entire identity depends on being impressive, life becomes a stage instead of an experience, and stages are exhausting places to live. These days, I try to notice smaller things, conversations without networking motives, reading without turning it into self-improvement, walking without listening to productivity podcasts, doing things badly without panicking. It sounds ridiculous that a 35-year-old man has to relearn how to simply exist, but that's what burnout really is, forgetting how to be human outside of achievement. I still work hard. I probably always will. Some habits sink into your bones too deeply to fully disappear, but I no longer believe success will transform me into someone worthy of peace. And honestly, that realization hurts, but it also feels strangely freeing. Because if I was never truly the smartest person in the room, then maybe I can finally stop trying so hard to prove that I am.